Okay, sorry. Apologies for that, Chairperson. So in terms of the purpose of this document is to brief the committee members, the honourable committee members, on the audit outcomes of the RAF for the 22-23 financial year. The organizational structure of RAF is included in the document, but I'm sure the RAF will cover that. In terms of the funding of the RAF, the main source of funding is obviously the fuel levy. And you'll note that in the 22-23 financial year, they've collected 48.5 billion of that fuel levy. In terms of the second part of the presentation, or part two of the presentation and the audit opinion history, you'll note that in 2022 and 2021, it was a disclaimer of audit opinion, and the 22-23 financial year, it was an adverse audit opinion. The audit of the annual performance report has improved from the previous financial year in that there were no material findings. On the key compliance with legislation, the financial statements, the quality of the financial statements has remained stagnant with material findings, an improvement in procurement and contract management, as well as expenditure management, which focuses on irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, as well as an improvement in consequence management. In terms of the, as I said, the audit outcome has moved from disclaimer of the previous 2 years to an adverse. And the key reason for that, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members, has been the support and the cooperation that we receive from the RAF in the 22-23 financial year versus the previous financial year. We've had excellent support, cooperation. We've agreed to disagree on certain matters. The board and management has engaged us during the audit process in terms of setting up the governance structure meetings so that we can engage on the audit report and the management report. We had a signed engagement letter, and we also received the signed representation from the chairperson of the board, and that facilitated us being able to engage properly on the audit, and our ultimate conclusion has then been that it is still appropriate, although not desirable, but an adverse audit opinion has been issued for the 22-23 financial year. You'll note, Chairperson, that since the 2021 financial year, the RAF has changed the accounting policy to account for the provision for the outstanding claims liabilities through using IPSAS 42. We did cover this in previous presentations, and it was a view of management and the board that it was a more fairer presentation. However, in our view, we disagreed with the use of IPSAS 42 in that it wasn't available for use in South Africa as supported by the Accounting Standards Board, which is the authoritative body that sets the accounting standards in South Africa for the public entities such as RAF. And also it conflicts with the principles of GRAP, and that causes a material misstatement of the provision for the outstanding claims liability. So in this, Chairperson, what we're saying is that we disagreed with the use of IPSAS 42 in that the liabilities are materially misstated. And as you'll see in the table on page 6, the significant reduction in the provision for the outstanding claims liability from 2019-20, which was when they used IFRS 4, to 22-23, which is 34 billion versus 331 billion. And the key components that's missing in the provision for the outstanding claims liability, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, is the liabilities in respect of accidents that did occur but not yet reported to RAF, which is subject to an actuarial valuation, and those claims that are registered on the RAF system but hasn't been through a full processing and an offer at that point in time. So those key components of the liability are then excluded under the new accounting policy. We are unable to determine the exact extent of this misstatement, as it is subject to an actuarial valuation using certain methods and certain methodology and certain assumptions. And that formed the basis for our adverse audit opinion, the disagreement on the use of IPSAS 42. So what we recommend that management, and the accounting authority actually used the previous accounting standard that was appropriate at the time and accepted and approved by the ASB until the ASB maybe prepares a new accounting standard and then approves it for use by the REF. In terms of the annual performance reporting, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, there were certain misstatements that we did identify, and through the engagements that we had with management, they were able to correct that, and ultimately we didn't have any material misstatements being reported in the audit report. On the going concern, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, you'll note that the REF does disclose that uncertainty in the financial statements. They are making basically, well, they've got the liabilities that exceed their assets by a material amount, and that creates some uncertainty as to the going concern ability of the REF. However, we are aware that, I mean, until legislation changes, the REF should continue to exist, and it will continue to receive the funding in the form of the fuel levy. On the status of the litigation, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, you'll note that on the 2020-21 financial year and the audit report, there was litigation initiated by the REF on two grounds. Firstly, seeking for us not to publish the 2021 report, and then also to declare the audit report invalid and unlawful on two grounds. Part A was actually eventually withdrawn after the recommendation of the committee and also the Minister of Transport, and that was withdrawn on the 29th of April. However, Part B is still ongoing, and it is set down for hearing between 30th of January 2024 and the 1st of February 2024. On this matter of the litigation, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members, based on previous requests, you have sort of urged management to seek alternative methods of trying to resolve this matter. However, while the matter is still in court, it's difficult to do that. You can only engage through legal representation. On this matter, the audit committee, together with the board, has requested a meeting with the leadership of our business unit, and that's set down for, I think, the 4th of December, Honourable Chairperson. But as I say, it's not something that can be resolved while the matter is still in court. It is something that needs sort of maybe more role players around this matter, because it's an accounting standard matter. It's not something, an auditing matter. So it's an accounting matter that's under dispute, and the approved, as I said, the authorized body that sets those standards is the ASB. And those, together with the OAG, and those would be the appropriate role players to engage on this matter, provided the litigation is ultimately withdrawn, and then we can engage on this matter. In terms of the key focus areas, Chairperson, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members, we did audit the outcome one, which is a transformed and sustainable REF. We just focus on two of those indicators within this outcome, which is around the timely processing of claims and the backlog of claims. That speaks directly to the service delivery mandate of the REF. However, the committee members are urged to go into the annual report and the annual performance report for details of the further indicators and targets and the reasons for non-achievement or the reasons for overachievement, etc. But on the timely processing of claims, REF set a target of 5% for processing claims, all new personal claims within 120 days. They've overachieved in that they've achieved 9.78%. However, what we urge management to do is to continue to set this bar higher. Because in terms of the Act, I mean, you're required to process all claims within 120 days. So we urge the management supported by the accounting authority to continue to sort of set higher targets around that, and thereby efficiently processing all of the claims within the 120 days. On the backlog of claims, that's the 3-year and older claims, the reduction of that, the target was 20%. The actual achievement was 16.77%. And this is a matter that needs continued focus to try and reduce this backlog, because you hear the cry out there all the time, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members, about the delays and the extended time it takes for claimants to receive their compensation. On the irregular expenditure, Chairperson and Honorable Chairperson and Honorable Members, it's important to read this in the context of the National Treasury Instruction Note, which we did quote there, which requires that you only disclose the actual irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure for the year that has been confirmed, fully investigated and confirmed. You disclose that in your financial statements. The other movements and the balances, etc., is disclosed in the annual report, so you wouldn't see it in the financial statements. So in terms of the financial statements, we've seen a reduction in that there's been no irregular expenditure that has been confirmed and disclosed in the financial statements. However, through the audit process, we did identify certain non-compliance in that certain contracts or expenditure was incurred in the absence of a contract being in place. And that was to the value of 33 million. That's still subject to investigation within the RAF, and once it's confirmed, it will be disclosed in the financial statements. So that's around irregular expenditure. In terms of IT performance, no real significant findings. However, there's certain enhancements that is required in this environment, especially taking into account in the past the ransomware attack that happened on the RAF. So we did pick up certain things that need an enhancement around the firewall management, around patches, etc., so that those things can make sure that the IT environment and ultimately the data that sits in that IT systems is protected. In terms of the drivers of key controls, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, you'll note that there are certain areas that require some focus, and it relates mostly to the quality of the financial statements, and that's due to the use of IPSIS 42, which created the adverse audit opinion. In terms of an overall conclusion, Chairperson, without repeating myself, it's still an adverse opinion. It is something that needs to be addressed. However, as I said, the movement from the disclaimer to the adverse opinion was through the support and the cooperation that we receive from management, which is appreciated. It makes the audit process much more efficient and much more smoother, and it allows for accountability to take place in a more timely manner without delaying the tabling of reports and the finalization of audits. On point 8, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, on the SIU, we just touched on the status of that. The investigation is still ongoing. The representatives from the SIU will brief the committee in terms of the findings to date, and we've noted their presentation as well. In terms of recommendations, lastly, Chair, to the committee, the Honorable Committee members and the Honorable Chair, is around the progress on the action to address the audit findings. It's the issue of the accounting policy and that creates this adverse audit opinion. There are other issues, maybe not material, but it is something that could be worked on to make sure it doesn't recur and doesn't create a further negative impact on the audit opinion. Engage the executive authority and the RAF accounting authority in terms of maybe more efficient facilitation of the audit process and more timely tabling of annual reports, and then also on the engagements with the accounting authority and the executive authority on the service delivery targets, as we spoke to, the achievement of thereof, the more efficient processing of claims, the more the reduction in the backlog. So those are key targets to focus on. And then also on the ongoing litigation with the Auditor General. Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, thank you for the opportunity. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you very much, AG. I'd like to welcome the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Transport and other members of the PC who are here. So thank you very much, AG. Let's take the... stop. Okay. Reserve Bank, National Treasury, right? Okay. Do they have a presentation to be flighted so that we can just do these technical... AG, can we reshuffle you? Yes. It's not a midnight reshuffle. I think let's take SIU and we'll come back to. Are you good to go? She's still. Okay, let's take SIU and we'll come back to National Treasury Reserve Bank. You can start with the preliminaries of the presentation, and by the time we get to the substantive issues, they should be here.
Thanks, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members. While we wait for my colleague, I'll just take the opportunity to introduce our teams. But firstly, let me also just acknowledge the chairperson of the board of REF and the members of the board and the DG of the National Department of Transport and all the officials from the REF, the officials of the AG. Thank you very much. From my side, I'm joined by Advocate Lebopa, who's the forensic legal person who's assisting the investigating teams, and Mr. Maseko, who's the lead investigator. I'm also joined by Advocate Vanara, who's the chief legal counsel, and Mr. Mutsieng is the communications manager. He's representing Mr. Khanyako, who could not be here. So, Chair, on that note, we are ready to proceed. Chair, as we've presented before, this is an ongoing investigation, but today we'll be presenting and also, of course, indicating really a significant progress since the last time we investigated. We will not go into the opening slides. Mr. Lekgetho will do the detailed proclamation investigations. We go directly to slide number 8, which is really the proclamation details, and Mr. Lekgetho will take over from here. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, the Honorable Member and Advocate, and the Chairperson of the Board, the DG, and all senior managers present and everybody present here. I'll do the presentation, and these slides just outline the proclamation that was issued. And in terms of this proclamation, R44, the focus is to investigate serious maladministration in the affair of the RAF in respect of the following. That is compensation payments made by RAF to claimants and claimants agent, payments made by RAF to service provider in a manner that was contrary to applicable legislation, manual, and policies, and any other related losses or irregular or fruitless or wasteful expenditure incurred by RAF. And thereafter, we also look at any irregular or improper or unlawful conduct by any official, employee of RAF, or any other person or entity in relation to those focus areas that I've indicated above there. When going to the presentation, the investigation is divided into 4 focus areas. And the first focus area, we look at the duplicate claims payments made to attorneys, claimants, and sheriffs, and change of mandate. And anticipated end date for this focus area is 31st March 2024. And focus area number 2, we look at procurement and tender irregularities, that is fruitless and wasteful expenditure. And that one anticipated end date is 30 April 2024. Focus area number 3, we look at payments made to a service provider in terms of RAF Act and or contracts. and we will be ending this focus area on the 30th of June 2024. And the last focus area, we look at fraudulent claims, and the anticipated end date is 30 June 2024. When we start with the first one, where we look at the duplicate claims payments made to attorneys and claimants and sheriff and change of mandate, the investigation focus on the losses incurred to the state caused by duplicate payments made to several firms of attorney as of the 1st of March 2021, which also include unlawful acts of appropriation. The duplicate payments were effected by the sheriff who executed upon writs of execution and received funds on behalf of the instructing attorney. The RAF has a payment system which dictates that when a claims offer is accepted, whether by settlement or by a way of court order, such claim will await 180 days before it is paid. As a result, the attorney will then attach the RAF bank account by way of writs of execution served by the sheriff, causing the RAF bank to effect payment in terms of the rates upon the 180 days lapsing. The same claim will then be paid again, thus constituting a duplicate payment. And in terms of the outcome, the SIU is investigating 102 law firms, which include the sheriffs, which received duplicate payments from RAF of approximately 340 million. When approached with the evidence, several legal practitioners have opted to cooperate with the SIU investigation in defray of their indebtedness by signing acknowledgement of debts. From the approximate amount of 340 million, the RAF and SIU has managed to recover as per the below amount. That is, to date, SIU has signed AOD to the value of 70 million, with actual amount recovered to date amounting to 41 million. And the SIU, through its investigation, has reconciled the total monies paid directly to RAF to the amount of 276 million thus far. This money was paid directly to RAF because when we approached some of the legal firms, instead of paying to SIU, they decide to pay money directly to RAF. That's why some of this money was paid directly to RAF. And based on the above, it is therefore meant that 340 of the 340 million that we have identified, an amount of 317 has been recovered to date. That includes the money paid directly to RAF and the money paid to SIU. Then in terms of the outcome, still a referral to National Prosecuting Authority. In the duplicate payments made as alluded above, the SIU found evidence pointing to criminality wherein trust account monies were misappropriated. And amongst those are the law firms which have signed the AOD with SIU, and there are other law firms who have since refunded the duplicate payments directly to RAF. However, the proof of payments submitted to the SIU depict such payments were made either from the lending institution or other accounts other than the trust account. As we know that the money were supposed to be kept in the trust account, but if it's paid back directly to RAF and it's paid back via other institutions, it means the money is not coming from the trust account, meaning that there's an issue with regard to misappropriation of the trust account. To date, the SIU has referred 12 law firms or legal practitioners to the NPA for criminal consideration. Then in terms of the Legal Practice Council, SIU found that there were attorneys who have received duplicate payments and have since been struck off the roll. Some have been suspended and others have since passed away. SIU is working with the LPC appointed curator Bonis to recover the money. Reconciliation is done periodically on the legal costs with due and payable to the suspended, struck off the roll of practitioners and the deceased practitioner in order to recover the monies due. Whenever there is evidence of misappropriation of trust funds on practicing practitioner referrals have been made to the LPC to take appropriate action. Currently, there are 5 practitioners who have been referred to the LPC. And change of mandate by the claimants on the implicated practitioner is handled by the appointed LPC curator bonus, and regular updates are provided to the SIU on the bi-monthly meeting between SIU and the LPC. Then in terms of disciplinary referral, the SIU is currently in the process of identifying the RAF official who caused the duplicate payments, and disciplinary referrals will be made against those implicated officials who failed to ensure that proper controls are in place to mitigate duplicate payments, or officials who failed to implement the controls. Those officials who left the employment of RAF will be referred to the NPA where there's evidence of criminality in their conduct. Financial institution, here we're looking at the major banks. The rates were served to the banks in order to attach RAF bank accounts, that is after the 180 days had elapsed. In the instance where a rate was served to the banks will deduct the rates amount into the RAF bank account, transfer it to the suspense account in order to satisfy the rates of execution. SIU has since established that there are substantial monies, that is millions, in the bank's suspense accounts that were not dispersed, and such monies are to date retained by different banks. According to one of the major banks that we have consulted with, the amount currently sitting in their suspense account in respect of the rates amount to 15 million. But currently we are busy with the process of quantifying the exact amount that is sitting in each and every bank. The total sum held in respect of the judicial attachment that were served to them by various sheriffs against the RAF account with them. The reason for retention of such money are the subject of an investigation which is still ongoing. And SIU is currently engaging with the banks, and there is a cooperation from the banks, and this investigation is ongoing. Focus area number 2, we look at the procurement and tender irregularities, that is fruitless and wasteful expenditure. The focus area number 2 deals with payments made as a result of the irregular procurement process followed by RAF. SIU is currently conducting investigation into 8 contracts which were awarded to certain service provider by way of procurement process. Among these contracts, there are procurement irregularities which were flagged by the Auditor General of South Africa, and the SIU has identified potential cash and assets to be disinvested or to be disgorged and to be recovered from service providers. The process encapsulates and are based on various legal processes which include review and setting aside of contracts and payments of money interdicted pending civil proceeding against this service provider, and the signing of acknowledgement of debt. And when coming to the contracts, the first one, we are looking at the claim back contracts. Here the allegation is that it's alleged that the contract was issued out irregularly. And in terms of the potential finding or the observation to date in terms of this investigation, the project was established to reduce the RAF claim backlog. The contract was awarded to 2 service providers. As per the needs analysis, the contract was earmarked to reduce the backlog claims. However, when the contract was awarded, it included new recent claims. There were also issue of performance on the contract, as one of the service provider was given 2,472 files and had only successfully completed 96 of these files. One of the contract was awarded to a consortium, which one member of the consortium fell off during the contract, and RAF internal audit conducted a verification of the BBEE only on the full standing of the consortium, whereas one member fell out of the consortium. The budget amount of the contract over 5 years was 742 million, and the actual amount spent amounted to 312 million. and 530 million for travel and accommodation for the duration of the contract, excluding medical cost. The contract lasted for 3 years, and SIU found that in awarding the contract, REF contravened Section 217 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa and Section 51 of the Public Finance Management Act. In terms of the civil recovery, there is a potential recovery, and the matter will be referred to SIU civil litigation for assessment and potentially to be taken to special tribunal. And currently, we are engaging the two service providers so that they can able to give us the right of reply before we take the matter to special tribunal. And in terms of the NPA referrals, the investigation is ongoing, and there may be potential NPA referrals. There is a potential DC referrals. However, majority of the role player are no longer with the REF, and the responsible official who left the employment of REF will be cited in the civil papers. Focus area number 2 still, we are looking at contract number 2, where we look at the subs license contract. And here it is alleged that REF procures sub licenses which the REF is not using. The contract value is 1.8 million, and preliminary finding indicate that REF is not using the sub licenses. Thus, this amount to fruitless and wasteful expenditure, and the investigation is ongoing. Then in terms of civil recovery, there's a potential recovery because REF is not using the license, and currently we're still putting evidence together so that we can refer it to our civil litigation for consideration. The investigation is ongoing, and where there is a matter pointing to criminality, same will be referred to the NPA. And disciplinary referrals, there are possible referrals for disciplinary action to be made to REF against the official who were responsible for this procurement. Contract number 3, we are looking at office furniture. Here it is alleged that an internal audit report showed that the 36 million office furniture contract escalated to 40 million irregularly. And also the legal opinion from the internal legal department indicate that the amendment of the service provider agreement, which escalated the cost, was irregular and invalid. In terms of the finding, the investigation is ongoing, thus we have not yet made any finding, and currently we are busy analyzing the document and looking at the financial flow. And in terms of the recovery pertaining to civil, there is a potential recovery to be made based on this contract, and NPA referrals, the matter is ongoing, and where there's a potential criminality and such will be referred to NPA, including the disciplinary referrals which would be referred to REF. Contract number 4, we look at the office building, which is the head office of REF. Here it is alleged that REF rented a building and did not follow the correct procurement processes, and the process followed to rent the building was flawed. In terms of the finding, preliminary finding, the interim finding revealed that due processes were not followed in the procurement of the head office building, and it appeared that REF went at length to ensure that the building was procured. And the investigation is still ongoing, and there is a potential recovery, and the potential amount will be determined after the quantification process. And also there's a potential for referrals to NPA and disciplinary referrals to REF. Contract number 5, we look at office building, that is the REF Johannesburg building. Here it is alleged that REF did not follow the correct procurement process in acquiring the Johannesburg office building. The observation or the finding is that for a period of 10 years, there had been cancellation of this tender, and the final rental was done by way of deviation. There were many deviations, and the preliminary finding points that this contract may have been awarded irregularly. And the investigation is also ongoing there, whereby there is a potential recovery and referrals to NPA and disciplinary referrals to the REF. Contract number 6, we look at the fleet tender. Here the allegation is that it is alleged that an appointed service provider failed to deliver vehicle as per the SLA, And in terms of our finding, the preliminary finding indicate that RAF delayed signing the SLA by over a year after it was awarded, which resulted in the service provider losing the agreement with the respective banks. And when the RAF finally signed the SLA and requested the said fleet, the service provider was unable to deliver. And on this one also, the investigation is still ongoing, and we will be looking at the potential recovery and referrals to NPA and disciplinary to the RAF for the official responsible for this procurement. Contract number 7, here we look at panels of attorney. Here the allegation is that it's alleged that RAF cancelled the panel of attorney without a plan in place. Findings to date is that RAF had a panel of attorney that represented RAF in court involving claim dispute. RAF has since cancelled the contract of the panels of attorney, and the rationale for such decision is a subject of investigation. And SIU noted that there has been an increase in default judgment issued against RAF since the termination of the panel of attorney. The total amount of default judgment issued against RAF for cost and fees from 2018 until second quarter of 2023 amounts to 4.7 billion. 4.7 billion. A sharp increase in the default judgment is noted between 2021 and 2022 period, and there was a matter where a claimant was awarded a default court order amounting to 11.1 million, which RAF failed to honor at the time, which led to amount accumulating interest worth around 500,000, which was paid out in respect of the claimant. The investigation is at an advanced stage, and the team is finalizing the finding and giving the right of reply to the person involved before they finalize the referrals. And on this matter also, there's potential recovery, and the quantification thereof will be determined upon conclusion of the investigation. There's also a potential for referrals to NPA and for disciplinary referrals for the official who were responsible for such irregularities. Then contract number 8, we're looking at the cleaning and security services. Here the allegation is that it's alleged that RAF awarded expired tender for cleaning and security services. The preliminary finding is that RAF issued security and cleaning services contract in a form of a tender and RFQ, and the investigation on this matter is still ongoing, and once it's finalized, we'll be looking at the potential recovery and the NPA and disciplinary referrals. Focus area number 3, here we look at the payments made to service provider in terms of the RAF Act and or contracts that will have been issued. And the focus area number 3 involved payments made to service provider by RAF in terms of their act. The RAF pay claims from service provider who have rendered services to the victims of the motor vehicles accident. These claims include inter alia, ambulance claim, hospital claims, doctor's claims, and any other expert claims that will have been submitted or where service has been rendered. Then in terms of this matter, the first one that we are looking at is service provider who have rendered service to the victims of the motor vehicles accident. Here the allegation is that it's alleged that service provider had been overpricing for its services. The finding or observation is that the investigation is ongoing, and to date there's no finding that have been identified, and the team is still looking through or analyzing all the claims that has been made. And in terms of the outcome, also there's possible outcome in terms of recovery, NPA, and also disciplinary referrals. And number 2, here we're looking at various hospitals, doctors, experts. Here we're looking at actuaries, and we're also looking at ambulances services that have provided service to RAF. The allegation here, it is alleged that the experts are submitting inflated invoices to RAF. The SIU has gathered information and data in respect of such claims, and in some instances, appointed expert to assist with the claims related to overpricing by the hospitals. We have collected such information, and the investigation also identified possible collusion between the RAF employee and the service provider, that is law firms and ambulance services, and the investigation is ongoing, and once it's finalized, we will be making referrals to NPA and disciplinary, and there's also potential recovery that will be made. Then in terms of focus area number 4, we look at fraudulent claims, and in terms of fraudulent claims, it is alleged that there was an attempt to change bank accounts of the service provider. Here, the observation is that RAF received internal intelligence report relating to the attempt to change bank accounts of the service provider. Upon investigation, SIU established that the RAF employee have made a bank fraudulent account change on the RAF system and redirected money meant for service provider into their personal bank accounts. The amount found to date on the personal account of this employee is 1.9 million, and the substantial amount of 1.9 million was used to purchase travelers' checks. And the investigation is ongoing in terms of this matter, and there's a possible recovery, and the NPA referrals will be made once we finalize the investigation, and disciplinary referrals will also be made in terms of the official that is involved. Next one is fraudulent claim. It is alleged that there are fraudulent claims submitted and paid by RAF. The investigation covers all the provinces of South Africa and foreign claims that have been made to RAF. And the investigation covers inter alia the following: both foreign and national claims, modification across the entire RSA, and repudiated claims. And progress to date, the SIU is currently mirror imaging the RAF claim system, where after the SIU will conduct data analysis in order to identify the red flags for further investigation. And upon conclusion of this investigation also, we have noted that there's potential recovery to be made, and there's also possible referrals to NPA and disciplinary referrals to the RAF. Then in terms of the observation that we have made, we have observed that RAF claim system has many modules, and thus SIU IT experts are working on ensuring the integrity of data, and therefore accuracy is not compromised. There are attorneys who have since paid the money received in duplicate directly to RAF, and SIU investigating whether in such instances there were possible misappropriation of trust fund, and there's an influx of writs of execution that is during the time of our review attaching to the RAF bank account, whilst the said claim is already lodged on the RAF payment system. Thus, the payments will be made in terms of the rates of execution, and RAF will effect payments constituting duplicate payments. The foregoing observation also revealed a lack of delay in reconciliation of RAF bank accounts against the claims paid under the normal payments processes and the rates payments. Although the investigation is ongoing, there is an indication that RAF may have made duplicate payments to other experts, example, doctors and other service providers. RAF employees who are key to the investigation are no longer in the employment of RAF, and the RAF had 3 instances of ransomware attack that occurred during December 2020 and June 2021 and August 2021. Thus, some of the information relevant to the investigation was lost. At this stage, the impact is minimal, but the SIU investigation is ongoing and the impact will be monitored. The SIU noted the high risk of litigation, particularly from the person of interest. An RAF claim system has many modules, and thus more IT experts will be appointed to assist with the analysis of the system. And there are instances where RAF block attorneys without just reason to do so. That is, there's one claim in question, it affects all claims under the block attorney. That is, as of March 2023, RAF, the amount of 482 million for attorneys were blocked for payments due to RAF internal investigation. The RAF has a tendency of not deleting user profile upon termination, which results in those profiles be used to commit fraud. That is, when officials resign, some of their user profile are not cancelled. As a result, some of the other official uses those user profile in order to commit fraud. And documents management RAF remained a concern. Then in terms of the systemic recommendation, the SIU re-emphasized that this systemic recommendation made on the basis of strength. Since our last COPA meeting, there's been no communication on whether some will be implemented. That is, include the periodic bank reconciliation in order to prevent and detect possible duplicate payments. Prior to effecting payments, to perform check and balances on whether there have been any rates of execution on the claims, and also review of the claim payment process. Then in terms of the summary of outcomes, you can see there that in terms of the actual cash that has been made to date is 317 million. And in terms of the NPA referrals, we have referred 12 referrals to NPA. Administrative referrals, that is the referrals to the LPC, is 5. And we currently in the process of reviewing the interim presidential report, which will be submitted to the president in due course. In terms of the services, the invoice that we have submitted to RAF to date, it amounts to 3.3 million. And in terms of the payments received for the invoice that we have submitted, it's 0. And total owed to SIU is 3.3 million, of which we currently engaging RAF for the payments of the money. And that is all from my side. Over to you, Advocate.
Baba Mthibi.
Chair. No, thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members. I also should have acknowledged the Chair of the Portfolio Committee. If I start on the last point around the invoices, and I'm sure we'll get to engage RAF further, but the process is that when we investigate, of course, there's a progress made, and some of those findings that we have made, and we prepare a progress report to RAF or any other state institution, and based on this progress report, we expect then that the RAF would then make a decision to process the payments. Of course, if there are questions raised, we do engage to show the basis of our invoices. And in the process of the engagement, we'll indicate when the invoices were sent. Chair, that's the end of our presentation. As the Honorable Committee can see, that we have indicated when particular focus areas will come for completion as part of the investigation. The investigation in itself is quite lengthy, and there's complexities in terms of going through the data that is recovered. But as honorable committee members could see, that the initial focus that we spent really time on related to the duplicate payments that were made to the attorney firms. And that has really resulted in significant findings, and the amounts that are recorded to the tune of about 317.6 million has already been recovered. And the process is ongoing to ensure that no one is left out. And the process of consequence management then will follow. We'll ensure that we follow up with the Legal Practice Council to ensure that those legal practitioners who have made themselves guilty in this process are dealt with to an extent that there's removal from the practice role, because we really cannot afford professionals such as the attorneys gaining irregularly from the ref process. There's a significant finding, Chair, as you can see on focus area 2, which really relates to the panel of attorneys. And of course, the investigation is ongoing there, but it's really, pointing out an indicator that really raises a bit of concern, although the investigation was ongoing. And as we say there, the rationale for the decision to really cancel the panel of attorneys would be looked at so that we are informed and come to the appropriate finding. But as you can indicate there, that we have noted quite a steep in terms of default judgments, and it appears that there may just be a link in terms of the panel of service providers that were providing legal services on behalf of REF, so that those matters are attended to and so on. But as we indicate, I mean, the amount there is indicated as 4.7 billion. It's really quite a significant amount, and based on the ultimate finding, we will then, point out whether the rationale, was in the interest of REF or not. Chair, as you could see, we've also at the end made some observations and what we call systemic recommendations, which we will continue to engage with the Road Accident Fund to ensure that as part of going forward and as they really deal with the causes of all of this, they should take all of those into account and ensure that the control environment is improved. And we, of course, do take into account the Auditor General's findings in the process, so that there's alignment in the process when really the road accident funds goes forward to improve the control environment and the processes. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Advocate Mtibi and Babule Khetho, for that presentation. I'm sure the RAF will have comment on some of the issues that have been raised on that. Okay, we're going to go to National Treasury now on the one aspect of the reporting standard and get clarity on that, albeit that we've been down this road before. And I know that there's a heat wave or whatever, but I feel like we are now in the mortuary. Straight, man. So can somebody please tone down the aircon? All right, National Treasury, over to you.
Good morning, honourable chairs and honourable members and all the committee members here today. I know we have been asked, but Minister did drop through his office. Can I? No, that's fine. Thank you. Sorry. Minister did drop a note to say that we at this stage are not in a position to do a detailed presentation because of the pending court case, and I think it would be more opportune to come back with a solution once the legal matters have been settled. This year, for this financial year, the RAF did approach, management did approach National Treasury, but we gave a similar response to say that let's settle the legal matters first before we make recommendations and it impacts further along. Just to clarify that for this year then, we have seen the message by the Auditor General on their presentation. We're still in agreement with the facts supplied, so we didn't give any additional information or assistance for the 22-23 financial year. And the way the matters stand now is that we're still in disagreement with the standard that the RAF has used. We do believe that the views that we gave last year to say that the standard is not available in terms of the Directive 5 of the ASB is still valid, and we'll wait to hear of any other legal outcome on the matter. Thank you, Chair.
So there's that confirmation of that outlook, which we have held to as well as this committee. I hope, Madam Chair, you are noting that, because as I said, we've been down this road many a times in this very room on this accounting standard, and the fact that it's still a prevailing headache as far as I'm concerned is fundamentally why the RAF will find itself swimming in this cesspool of challenges, and probably I'm being euphemistic with the term challenge. Right, let's hand over to RAF colleagues. I think they've had opportunity to hear what AG has said, SIU and National Treasury. There is a RAF presentation. Madam Chair, you will delegate to your team as you deem fit, and then we will go to questions. So, RAF, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson, once more. Thank you, AG, for the detailed presentation, and thank you, SIU, for your presentation as well. Chair, before I hand over to the acting CEO, I'd like to actually note some of the comments made by the AG that the last audit went actually very well, that the two teams actually found each other. And to us as the new board, we really hope that that kind of relationship will be sustained. And we also note the change in the audit outcomes. And yes, it's not desirable. We are hoping that the relationship will continue so we can improve on that, because as a board, I mean, it's nothing to brag about when you have that kind of audit outcome. It's not the best. I mean, adverse is not the best. So, and also, I also like to echo the fact that we see in the improvements in the control environment and in the performance of the RAF over this 3-year turnaround strategic process. And as a new board, we actually plan to improve on that. And we actually noted the areas of improvements by the Auditor General, and we will continue to do so. I'm happy to state that in our REF liability, which is our RNYP, which is our short-term liability, we've seen it being reduced from, I mean, the projection was supposed to be 51 billion. We're sitting at 9.3 currently. And we've seen that the legal cost, again, was expected to be at 10 billion. We're sitting at 3.9 billion as we stand currently. And we are seeing the increase in the processing of claims, Chairperson, which is really the bread and butter for this organization. We're here to pay and process claims as fast as possible. So we are committed to improve that, because we need to improve along those lines. And Chair, we do accept that we're still having challenges around old claims. I mean, that's one of the targets that we missed. I think there's 2 targets that we did not achieve in terms of our committed APP, as the AG have stated. It's the audit outcomes that we've just said that it's now sitting at adverse, it's still not where we expected it to be, and also dealing with the all claims. And I think the main issue around that, Chair, is really getting the minimum requirements from the all claims, because the problem is about supporting documentation. But Chair, I'm happy to announce that the RAF have now instituted a new claims contact center from the beginning of October. That process is actually assisting us in reaching out to the claimants and really assist them in terms of, how they can give us those minimum requirements. So we are engaging very closely to the claimants to really try and assist them in getting the minimum requirements, because the RAF is committed to paying out claims as soon as we get the minimum requirements. So that cost center is really, contact center is really assisting us in reaching out and getting the minimum information. And we're hoping that that will bear positive results going forward. In terms of performance, we've noted the 91.3 performance. I mean, from 57% in 2020-21, again, you can see that this is an organization that is committed to improve its performance going forward. And Chair, regarding the engagements with AG, like I said earlier on, that we are happy that the teams on the ground, at least they have a rapport, a working relationship. We are hoping to build on that, and that's why we've requested, I personally requested that meeting that is happening on the 4th of December, to actually reach out once more to the AG to try and see if we can find, other alternative ways of dealing with this matter. We understand that the matter is sub judice, but in this country, settlements can happen at any stage of the legal process. So that's why we're still reaching out to find possible ways. And also there's the other reason, Chair, that we still need to have consensus, the agreement in terms of minds around the next audit process. The auditor and the auditee, it's like a marriage. When you fight and disagree, you still have to live together. So they still have to audit, the RAF going forward. So the relationship needs to be conducive, irrespective of the court case. But we are hoping that a resolution will come out of that, because you need both parties to agree in terms of the terms and conditions of the settlement. And really, we are going to continue as a new board to try and reach out for a possible solution, Chair. And then I'm not going to get into the detail. Part two will do that. With the SIU, thank you very much, SIU, for the report once again. And really, we do appreciate the number and the amount of recoveries that have been made to date. And thank you for partnering with us, because the previous board, when they took over, that's one of the issues that concerned us, the double payments. And we understood the challenge around the sheriffs and the REITs, and the fact that by the time we're still trying to process the payment internally within the 180 days, there would already be a REIT sitting and being executed by the sheriff, and then obviously the attachment of our accounts, which really has been the modus operandi behind these double payments. But I'm happy with the way that the SIU is really assisting us in going forward. And Chair, we will, cooperate, because I think it's very important to understand that that's one of the processes that we as a board and the current executive wanted, because we realize that we need more assistance in dealing with the risk of fraud, because it is an inherent risk within this organization. So having the SIU behind us, we truly appreciate. We'll walk this journey together. And whatever referrals for disciplinary process, we will execute those. We've started dealing with issues of people that have been or all irregularities by staff members. So the internal processes, the disciplinary process is continuing within the RAF. We are cleaning out that environment, and having the SIU supporting us will definitely assist us going forward. And the referrals to other investigating bodies, we will await the results of that, and again, cooperate with the SIU. Regarding, I think it's important to note that this report, we're seeing it for the first time here. We haven't really had an engagement on the progress on this report, Chairperson, and I think maybe there could be the reason around the invoice. I was asking our colleague, when was the invoice issued? I don't think the RAF would not pay the SIU for the sterling work that they have done. So we will await the engagement and the process in terms of invoicing and whatever progress report that you bring to our attention, and then we will oblige in terms of dealing with it. And again, when it comes to recommendations, we are aware of the systemic issues, especially on the system. We know that the RAF is basically, the system is still paper-based, and that's why currently the organization is in the process of developing and implementing a fit-for-purpose integrated claims management system. That process is going very well, and I think the acting CEO will give us the update on that, because we need to get out of the paper environment, and that's where our colleague was talking about the system that is complicated, and then you end up needing experts to actually do extra work. But we are improving around those lines to actually automate going forward. And other systemic issues, I think, that I've noted, which again I agree to them, is we are working on them with all the control deficiencies. And I think it's important to note that from the audit report, you can see the systemic improvements in the control environment, within the RAF. Whenever we receive findings from the AG, external investigating providers, there is a process called combined assurance process within the RAF. All the investigation recommendations are actually allocated to the departmental heads to actually deal with them. They're given timelines, they are monitored, and within the agreed times, those issues are finalized. That's why we see continuous improvement in the control environment. So we will do the same with all the recommendations you bring to us, because that will only serve to benefit the RAF as well as the claimants out there and the general public that benefit out of this organization. So thank you very much, both. You are our assurance providers working with us. We want to maintain a healthy relationship going forward. Thank you, Chair. I will now, with your permission, would like Mr. Lucareni to continue and give us the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Chair, and good morning. I think, as the Chair had already indicated, on the AGSA report, I think it's a clear reflection of what we have been indicating around the improvements in terms of the AGSA outcomes, particularly in other areas of the audit. Of course, the audit of financial statements still remains a challenge owing to the dispute that the Chair has referred to, and I think the engagement and the process that the board has taken to further engage, I think will resolve that issue. And I think we've been making this point that if you take that matter out of the audit report, that audit outcome is essentially an unqualified audit without findings. If you look at the audit of performance information, it's a significant improvement without material findings. If you look at the audit of compliance, the compliance issues that are raised are essentially issues that are again linked to compliance with GRAP as it relates to the accounting policy. If you look at the audit of internal controls, again, it goes back to the issue of the accounting policy. So hence you would have seen from the presentation of the AGSA that as a consequence you don't have issues of irregular expenditure issues that are raised in this matter. And I think it's an indication of the journey we've traveled in terms of improving those controls in those spaces. And I think it also links with the work that the SIU is doing, in that some of the projects that they've been working on are the projects that we would have referred for further investigations because of some of the challenges that existed from a procurement perspective. And I think we obviously take note of that. And I think one of the most important aspects that aligns is the issue around duplicate payments. And I think we've been making this point around the duplicate payments and the control efficiencies in that space. And that you would have noted that one of the key observations that the AGSA makes in their report, particularly in their management letter to us, is the improvements in controls in that space from a financial reconciliation perspective as it relates to how we have since improved controls around preventing duplicate payments. And I think that's one of the areas that they make an observation on. And I think it's important that for the RAF, it was not only about referring matters for recoveries to the SIU as it relates to duplicate payments, but it was also about making sure that the controls are strengthened, because you'll recall that most of these duplicate payments that were handed to the SIU were identified by the RAF, and also some of them recoveries had already been made. And I think once the SIU came on board, it just assisted also in intensifying the recovery purposes. And I think it shows in just the quantums of recoveries that have been made. So Chair, I will really not go much into a lot of details. I thought, well, let's just give you a snapshot of the performance as requested, just at the level of organizational, claims performance, just on organizational performance from a predetermined objectives and financial performance as just at a high level. Tammy, if you can just go to the next slide. The next one, summary. Yeah. So just at a high level from the 2020-23, from a claims performance perspective, the total revenue, as we have indicated, that we have not received a fuel levy increase for the past 2 financial years. So the revenue of 48.76 billion in real terms represents a decrease in revenue, given it, factoring in inflation. But you'll see that the only positive upward take on the revenue was just the investment income. But by and large, we were able to manage the rough finances essentially by dipping into our reducing our administrative costs. That's the only way that we're able to continue with claims payments and reducing our liability. As you can see, The liability, which is the short-term liability or the RNYP, was 9.3 billion, and as we've indicated, this is against the context of the just over 17 billion in 2019-20 when the board started. So this stabilized around 9.3 billion now, and again, the question is how do you reduce that RNYP in the context of not receiving fuel levy increases? And again, we emphasize the fact that it was important to reduce the administrative cost to be able to do that. Next slide, Tammy. Now, similarly, I think the AG referred to the issues of the claims liabilities, and the number of claims that were registered, around 92,385 new claims, and we're able to finalize just over 86,000. Next slide. Now, I think that just gives you an indication of the kind of products and quantums we pay. The biggest one being loss of earnings, around 22 billion that we paid out. And I think between loss of earnings and loss of support claims of 2.5 billion is the main rationale why we are now looking at, from a legislative amendment perspective, looking at moving away from payments in lump sum to installment payments, and I think that will take care of that quantum. I think that's the main issue. I think we also reflect there on the reduction in legal costs over the strategic period. Next slide. Now, in terms of organizational performance, just at a high level, as the chairperson had already indicated, we achieved 91% of our targets. Of the 23 targets, we only failed to achieve 2 targets. The main one in particular being the reduction of the average of all claims, which we intended to do so by 20%, but we fell short 3% of the target. And I think the challenge here, we also explained, I think, in the previous engagement with SCOPA, around how difficult it has been in that most of the claims in the backlog do not have sufficient information to enable the fund to properly investigate and make appropriate offers. And I think that has been a legacy challenge that we've been trying to address and improve through ensuring that we put proper systems in place to ensure that all the claims that we receive are compliant and give us an opportunity to be able to make offers within 120 days. Next, I think this is just the indication of the targets. I will not really go through them because I think the other one, of course, that it will not achieve is the one on unqualified audit with no findings. That just the overall, just to indicate at the beginning of the strategy that it was, the performance was 29, in 2019-20 was around 57%. That has improved steadily to where it is now at 91.3%. I think the financial performance, I think just go to the audit, the financial performance at a high level, if Bernice can just talk to it quickly. Chair, through you.
Thank you. Good morning, Honourable Chair and members. So this section deals with the financial performance. You will see the major values that we report here in terms of our performance is the net fuel levy. As our acting CEO had touched on earlier, there was a slight increase, but nevertheless against the inflation of 6.9%, and non-increase of the levy over the last 3 years, we really see it as a decrease in real terms. In terms of claims expenditure, there has been an increase there, and this is directly as a result of the increase in our claims liability. Then we also report a deficit of 8.4 billion, and that sort of is contributed towards this particular increase in the claims expenditure. Then in terms of current assets, we have a fuel levy receivable. So we receive our fuel levy 2.5 months after it is recovered by SARS. And therefore we have about a 2.5 month levy that we recognize as a receivable in current assets. Current liabilities of 35.6 billion, and that is mainly made up of the claims liability, so the RNYP of 9.3 billion, and then the remainder is the claims liability for offers made not yet accepted. And you will see there that we have an accumulated deficit of 23 million. In terms of cash flows, there was a slight decrease in terms of the cash holdings for the year under review, from 868 million to 630 million. Next slide. This just shows the breakdown, as I had indicated earlier, of the claims liability. So there's what we refer to as RNYP, requested not yet paid, of 9.3 billion. And you will see the decrease there from 2021 when it was 14.9 billion. And then the next section is the claims liability for offers requested or not yet requested for payment. So we have made offers to our claimants which they would not have accepted yet, and that is 24.8. There is an increase, and obviously as we continue to try and settle claims within 120 days, you would see a direct correlation between that and then the increase in that portion of the liability. This slide just deals with the breakdown of the claims expenditure line item on the face of the statement of financial performance. We have claims paid there of 45.7 billion. There has been a slight increase in the RNYP of 189 million, and then the increase, as I said, in the claims liability of 8 billion. Next slide. And then in this slide, we indicate the breakdown of the actual claims paid of 45 billion. So the 36.3 billion paid directly in terms of claimant compensation. So that would be for your LOS, LOE, and GDs. Then we have claimant medical costs of 1.9 billion, claimant legal and other costs of 5.5, and then RAF legal of 2 billion, which makes up the 45 billion. I am going to hand back to my acting CEO. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and just in closing on the AGSA outcomes, as we have discussed, Chair, just to emphasize, I think, the issues that were raised earlier, that indeed the main area that still remains is just the issue around the accounting policy issue as it has affected the financial statements outcome area and the financial statements as in relation to the compliance. And I think the rest of the areas, be it procurement and contract management, expenditure management, asset management, consequence management, strategic planning and performance management, are all in the green and have improved. And then I think it is in that context that we make those observations from the AG, from the 2022-23 audit outcome. So I think, like I was indicating, in terms of the key observations that the AGSA made on the performance, particularly is the fact that the drive to reduce legal costs has yielded positive results, in that a 60% reduction was reported against a target of 30% against the set baseline in the annual performance report, that the actual legal costs paid was 3.7 billion against a baseline of 9.4 billion and planned target of 7 billion. So this will ensure that available funds are now directed towards payment of claimant compensation. It's an important observation. And in relation to duplicate payments that were identified, the AGSA notes that since December 2020, through implementation of certain controls, no further bank attachments have occurred and thus no duplicate payments. Management has instituted measures to recover these duplicate payments, supported by the investigation by the SIU, and again this ensures that available funds are being used to pay claimant compensation, thus avoid further financial loss. And finally, on reflecting on the RNYP reduction, the AGSA noted that this reflects that the majority of the net fuel levy is now directed towards payment claimant compensation, with a steady reduction in the claims requested and not yet paid. And I think that for us are take home for the 2022-23 audit from as we move forward. And finally, the next slide, Tammy. Is it the? Yeah, that's the last one. Okay, that's fine. Thanks, Chair.
Madam Chair, are you fine?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think we covered. You may go ahead. Thank you, Your Honor.
No, thank you. I think we're going to go to questions, but I think I must caution from this to borrow on the analogy of marriage that you spoke about, of divorcing the audit outcome in their material nature, because central to the disclaimer, the adverse, and now the court action is the accounting standard. Because I think we run the risk of cherry picking the reality confronting REF. Because I was just going through our own notes here. For the financial year 22-23, REF reported a deficit of 8.4 billion rand in the statement of financial performance, a significant deterioration compared to the surplus of 428 million reported in 21-22. The deficit was mainly attributable to the increase in the claims liability for offers that were not yet requested for payment as at 31 March 2023. As a result, REF's accumulated deficit increased to 23.9 billion. The total liability reported as at 31 March 23 amounted to 34 billion rands, of which 24.9 are claims which have not yet been requested for payment, but which will be requested and paid within the next 12 months. Our own assessment goes on to say that REF has been technically insolvent for a considerable amount of time due to facing significant operational challenges. Key amongst these challenges is an operating model that relies heavily on litigation. You are living on litigation. You are a highly litigious institution. And at some point, we need clarity on who actually bears the cost of these things. Because even on this accounting standard, Treasury has put a view, the Accountant General has put a view, the Accounting Standards Board has put a view, we have made an assessment and put a view. Everyone else is wrong except for you. Who's going to bear the cost of this thing at the end of the day? The AG has made a determination on the matter. Because at the stroke of a pen, you change the direction of your finances with this change. And you're told that it's wrong by everybody in the ecosystem of your financial operation and financial management. So the issue of the accounting standard is at the heart of why we are here and continue to be here. When was it? Was it not last week when there was a dismissal of an urgent bid to stop the auction of movable assets? It was last week when we were there on oversight. Tables and desks were all tagged for the sheriff. So I just thought I should caution from this divorce of it, because the main issue is that one. All right, colleagues, over to you, Honorable Hadebe. You will put your full set of questions and then we'll come back. Over to you, Pungan.
No, thanks, Chair. Okay, let me take the laptop.
Moving away from paper, that's progressive.
No, I requested her to forward the letter to me, Chair. I wanted to read the letter that the then Minister Mbalula wrote to us. Yes. It says, I'm not going to read the entire letter. In light of the above, I have therefore made the following determination going forward. I have written and subsequently met with the board. Herein, I directed the board to consider passing the necessary resolution to withdraw from the courts and pursue less confrontational measures to address differences with other organs of state. I have equally directed the board to table all outstanding reports for scrutiny by the relevant parliamentary structures in line with the accountability measures provided for the relevant prescript that governs our work. I must appreciate the Standing Committee's work in entrenching the culture of accountability. Please be assured of my commitment to work with you at all times to deepen governance, accountability for the department and all its entities. Allow me to also express my appreciation to the committee for acceding to the request tabled by the Deputy Minister to allow us time to present a report on how to address the matters. The letter, okay. The letter was dated 4th October 2022. Sistombi, I'm reading the letter, Chair, because I was puzzled by the fact that there's still Part B in court. My understanding of the instruction was for the board to seek alternative ways to deal with the disputes, unless I'm wrong, Chair. Hence, I was reading the letter. That would be my first clarity question from the board. I understanding that they were appointed on the 1st of October, ne?
2023, yes.
2023, 1st of October. But the nature allows no vacuum. Whatever decision taken then, they are applicable to you. And I'm happy that there's issue, Chair, of continuity, not the entire board is new. Can I first understand, Chair, that aspect? And to augment my question, the Chair, she's saying to us she is willing to work with AG to seek alternative ways to resolve this matter. Having been appointed on the 1st of October, having had time to go through the 2022-23 audit outcome, I think which was tabled sometime in September. You are almost 2 months in office. What have you done since then, if indeed what you are saying to us is true, the willingness to resolve this matter outside court? Chair, I'm raising this because on the 30th of October, they filed their heads of argument. My assumption and understanding that those heads of arguments were filed with your approval, inputs, and consideration. Are you indeed willing to deal with this matter outside the court? What is the status of the then minister's letter to the board in relation to this matter? Can I just get that clarity, Chair?
I think it's important. It clears a lot of issues. Thanks for raising it.
Sorry, Chair, are you guiding me to respond? Thank you, Honorable Chair, and thank you, Honorable Member, for those questions of clarity. Honorable Member, I think it's very important to say, yes, it's almost 2 months that we came appointed as a new board. And you understand the procedures that the board has to be inducted, whether there's continuity or not, because as a chairperson, I don't have the authority over the whole board. So we had to induct the board. That happened in the 2 month space. Then we had to deal with the finalization of the audit. The Auditor General had finalized signing off. We had to call a special board meeting to approve the financial statements, the audited financial statements, the performance report, as well as the audit report accepted. And then we had to work on having the AGM, which took place on the 2nd of November, now entering into the 2nd month. And then we had to prepare for P-Court to present the same. That happened the next week. I think it was the 7th of November. But then that's when I decided that after we've bedded with compliance matters, because we realized that, you know, we had to comply. And I think the audit was slightly delayed as well. So that's why we finalized it now in October, November. So I don't think that there was a disconnect in terms of the commitment, Honorable Member. We are committed in trying, and I think, like I said, that's why I use the analogy of a marriage, that we have to work together. We have to work because, you know, the Auditor General, they are our statutory auditors, and on an annual basis, they need to come in and do the audit. So the relationship is important, irrespective of whatever is happening. That's why now I've reached out. In fact, we were trying to find dates. That's the other thing as well, to meet with the Auditor General, because the office has to also look at their availability, which is why then they've given us the quickest available date, which is the 4th of December. So the commitment is there. We'll work around it. And also, I don't think that the board had any intention of disregarding the direction that was given by the previous minister, the Honorable Minister Mbalula. I think the board, they've considered that consideration, and I think that's why there was the Part A that was, you know, withdrawn. But we still have to go through the nitty-gritties of the Part B to actually understand as a full board, because the new members, they need to understand the issues in terms of them discharging their fiduciary duties, because we are individually and jointly liable in terms of the decisions that we take. So we cannot take those decisions lightly. We can't walk in as a board and then tell the executives, no, change this, you know, God, without going through the merits of the case and the matters at hand before we can basically give direction, because we have to ensure that we actually exercise due care and skill in addressing any matter, and make sure that every decision we take is in the best interest of the RAF, not individuals, of the claimants of the whole country. Because I've said it in another forum that one day it could be you or me who becomes, a claimant at the RAF. We all drivers in our own space. So we all have a vested interest in seeing this organization getting better. So that's, in a nutshell, the response that we are working on it. It's just that we had compliance matters in the 2 months. That's why we're here today presenting the annual report audited, finalized, signed off, AGM done, and we're here with all the subcommittees of Parliament. We are working on it, Chairperson. Thank you.
I take your point, and fair enough, the board is still new, but not all of you are still new. I'm asking on the basis that on the 30th, you have filed your heads of arguments, and I asked the question, was that filed with your knowledge, approval, and consideration? Filing heads of argument, please correct me, it means you are forging ahead with the case, and while in this platform we get a sense and understanding that you are willing to find alternative mechanism to resolve the impasse.
Chair, like I said, I think the question is around, some of us are not new in the environment, but I think I've answered that question saying that a board is a collective, and we cannot just walk in and throw away everything, especially court matters. When it comes to court matters, we need independent opinion in terms of, before we can even say yea or nay. So I would really request the committee to give us some reasonable time so that we discharge our fiduciary duties. We cannot take this matter lightly and just make irresponsible, I'm sorry to use the term, it would be irresponsible on our part to just walk in within less than 2 months, then we went without looking into the merits, even getting opinions on the matter, whether, it is the right decision to take. Because I believe that we have a very skilled and experienced executive team. And the previous board, I know that they've exercised their duties with due care. And I remember that there were consultations with professional bodies to get their opinions on the matter, other than the ASB and the Auditor General, because those were our direct communication with. And I know there've been times where the board seek legal opinion on the matter before they agreed on the final decision. So it's just too early for us to basically instruct anyone when it comes to very serious legal matters without having gone through all the necessary information and get, professional advice on the matter before we do it. That's why we're trying to start with the Auditor General. We never know what's going to happen. I'm still very positive. I'm hopeful. Let's just say I'm hopeful. We can't throw the baby with the water at this stage. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question.
With due respect, Chair, the heads of arguments on the 30th of October 2023, were they filed with your approval, knowledge, and input?
Build on that, Honorable Hatter, if I may. See, that's why I said let's not divorce this issue, because central to everything is this. Due care, Madam Chair, you're right, is a necessary cause of action for any new board. So we're not saying walk in there and do things, but proceeding with it would mean that due care was applied. You see, that's what it is. And this matters not in a vacuum. The Office of the Accountant General, the AG, the Accounting Standards Board, we ourselves here having applied some sort of due diligence, no, not even some sort, extensively consulted. And we've made the point that at a stroke of a pen, the accounting standard changed and somewhat the outlook of the finances improved. And everyone is saying, National Treasury says we still hold the same position we held last year. So what Honorable Adam is saying, so it would be irresponsible, as you say, to stop something, right? But did you proceed with it or allowed it to proceed on the basis then of what due diligence? What due care then? What responsible action steps were taken to guide the allowing of this thing? Let me take the chair of the portfolio. Just stand by, Madam Chair.
Chair, thank you very much. I was not going to speak, but also thank you for allowing us to walk in your meeting. But it does help. Now I'm starting to appreciate being here. But having said that, as a build-up on your 2 points, Honorable Khatebe says that on the 21st of October, 30th of October, it's like last month. Okay. You are saying that notwithstanding what the Portfolio Committee of Transport have said, notwithstanding the current minister have said, notwithstanding the letter that was then written by the minister, you are a government entity. AG, service and oversight, financial standings and compliance and all that on behalf of South Africans. You are saying that as the chair of the board, that you are, regardless what the Portfolio Committee of Transport have said to you as an entity, you are saying you are still pondering on whether you are going in that marriage, that is, it takes two to tango, but you are not also taking into account what the Portfolio Committee of Transport, and I, chairperson, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, looking for a very serious, heavy word, because I don't want to be seen like I'm making anyone sitting on the carpet. But it reflects on the standing of the Committee of Transport that we don't do our oversight, which is not the truth. And we have, through the Minister Chair, requested this entity, through its board, to consider of settling the matter out of court. And I'm disappointed that the 30th of October of 2023, there has been a filing papers in terms of the heads of arguments. And I think probably, but we'll get the response, but I hope the response will be better than this, than what is being given to us. Thank you.
Your statement of the 3 weeks ago, as the Portfolio Committee says, resolve ref accounting issues. Madam Chair, let's get a response.
Thank you once again, Honorable Chair and Honorable Chair of the PCOT Committee. I note your comments, I note your concerns, and we are considering the matter, and it is on top of our priorities as a new board. But like I said, I know that it's difficult, that we do need to consider all the documentation, the matter, the merits of the case. I mean, I like what the chairperson is saying, that it's been, you know, an issue that has been on the table of scope for some time. So you've had sufficient time to go through this matter. I wouldn't really expect the board. I actually said, Chair, we couldn't instruct management to do yea or nay. So it's not necessarily on one part, because we haven't really had sufficient knowledge. We do have fiduciary duties, and those fiduciary duties are very important as a board. And that's why we want to start with the Auditor General. That's the other party to the matter, so that we can see if there's, again, possible alternative ways to deal with the matter before we can, because there's various parties, and you're right, And then after that, we need to engage with the ASB because it's very important to get the standard setter if they can possibly fast track the development.
My
Sorry.
apology, Chair, and
Okay.
through you, Chair.
Akaqede ngoba
No,
besingithi
Chair.
conclude, then you come in la bamba nje Bhungane ngoba I think she's concluding. Bamba, you'll come in after. Let's hear the response in total.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we're also looking at the future of resolving the technical aspects of the matter, having the right standard that will replace IPSAS 42. And I think we are aware that there's a process that have started in developing that. So we needed to sit with the AG first, which is going to happen in December. And I don't know, can't really preempt the outcome. But then we are hoping that then the next step would be to meet with the ASB again, and then maybe get legal opinion. Hopefully, by the time the matter goes to court for the set date, we don't know, something could have happened. But I can't, as a board, we can't just walk in within a month without having, sight of everything and make responsible decisions that's going to affect the whole organization and all affected parties. We really need to engage first before we make a decision. But we take all the recommendations by the parliamentary committees. We know the importance of Parliament and its subcommittees, and we respect that, Honourable Chairperson and Member. And we also respect the work of the Audit General and all the other critical role players in our space. But we are working on that, and it is a priority. That's why I'm requesting more time to work on the matter. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Hatebe.
You see, Chair, hence I wanted to interject because I asked a simple question and it has not been answered. I'm asking it for the third time. The heads of arguments, were they filed with your approval, input, and consideration? Now you have given me 2 preambles to justify why things are happening. Can I get the answer now to the questions? If it's difficult, who filed the heads of argument? Who approved? Who gave go-ahead for those heads of argument to be filed?
Chair, I think at this stage I'll allow the acting CEO to answer that question, if you don't mind. Thank you.
No. No.
You're
He's
an
a-
accounting.
he's asking the board.
I'm asking the accounting authority.
You were in office from the 1st of October.
Okay.
The Honorable Hatebe is placing on the table that this was the 30th of October. So you were already in office.
All right. Chair, that matter hasn't been tabled at the board.
So, are you aware that on the 30th of October, heads of arguments were filed in court?
I'm hearing that for the first time.
Okay, then you can go to the acting CEO now. Were papers filed on the 30th of October?
Thanks, Chair. I will allow the CGO to confirm, but I think what I want to indicate first, Chair, can I just indicate that as it relates to litigation.
Wait. Let it you say. I'm trying to help you. But Honorable Hatebe will keep on coming to this thing. Were papers filed on the 30th? That's a simple one. Let's start there, and then you can add things. Were papers filed on the 30th? And on whose authority were they filed?
Okay, can you confirm that first?
Yes, they were. And usually affidavits are signed by the CEO. Yes. Affidavits are signed by the CEO.
Right.
CEO.
Just your mic, Honorable Hatebe, as you.
I'm referring to these ones, not the usual practice. The one that was filed on the 30th of October, who signed it? I think we've got a substantive CEO. I'm just asking a direct question. Let's leave the usuality in dealing with the specifics?
The heads of argument were filed as instructed by the DJP because there are dates. We've got the court case on the 30th, 31st, and the 1st of February. So heads of argument were filed as per DJP's date.
When? When?
In October.
30th of October.
Yes, I will just confirm
Right.
it
So
now.
how is it then that you see, Madam Chair, that's why we're going on this issue. Ama executives ase rough azondlala umjikajo. You are a new board, you are speaking about being responsible, you're speaking about due diligence, consultative processes. Court papers on a substantive matter are filed without your knowledge, and you learn about that here for the first time on the 29th of November, almost a month later, on a key critical issue of audit outcomes and negotiations and discussions and ministerial directives. Why should we proceed with this meeting? Because what I want to know, how long have you been acting as CEO, sir?
No, I'm appointed to, I'm acting for this meeting because I'm representing the CEO because he's not well today.
I thought so. So that's the problem. I fundamentally believe, Chairperson, that there was, on my part at the very least, an outlook to say that a new board sweeps clean. We're back to square one. A year later, we've sat in this room ad nauseum discussing this thing. Ad nauseum. Manje nifuna ukusishaya ngama-technicalities nje on a simple issue. How is it that you are in court on the alpha and omega of your audit outcomes and the board doesn't know? Niyadlala. Just one
question. Smallanyana, thank you very much. My understanding, Chair, in terms of the board's working and the mandates and powers, may I probably be taken to confidence in terms of the current board? Have you reviewed the delegated authority to the CEO and the capping thereof, or everything is still like yesterday? Because also it borders in terms of the authority and the policy and the gravity of the matters that the board at any given time must go via the board. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, how many meetings have you held as a board since you were appointed?
Let's get responses to those two issues.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. I think we've had probably 2 meetings, if I'm not, I stand to be corrected, but we were basically approving the annual report, like I said earlier on, preparing for AGM, and and the statutory meeting that happened on the day of the induction. Remember that we had to induct the members at the same time and try and deal with the compliance matters. So really, this board hasn't even been in office for 3 months. I'm also aware that the performance agreement of the board and the shareholders compact actually expires in March 2024. I had brief discussions with the minister on that one. So even those matters haven't been finalized, but the delegation of authorities, the existing one, hasn't really been reviewed. So the powers remain, like I said, we've only been in power for 2 months. But we're also going to have our strategic session in January. That's where we're gonna review the strategy and then look at the policy implications in terms of powers and authority and look at those things. That's why I'm saying, Chair, that this board is just on board. We haven't really been formally inducted, signed, the necessary documentation in terms of our going forward. But the existing delegation of authorities, they still are prevailing until they are reviewed. And then we're having our strategy session for the review of the strategy going forward and all the other necessary changes that may be required in terms of policy going forward. Thank you.
So you're soliciting a meeting with the AG on a key substantive matter, ngapha the executives are proceeding with the court cases. I mean, shouldn't that signal something? You want the AG, you want to talk to the AG, you want to talk to ASB, yet you are in court and you learn about the processes here. What were you inducted on? What were you inducted on? Company Secretary, why wasn't the board informed of the issues around court action and you proceeding and the matters going to court and the court papers? I'm not saying that we are reviewing the delegated responsibilities, but this is a substantive matter which has resulted in some issues not being tabled to Parliament. There's ministerial directives, there's parliamentary engagements, and it is at the heart of your audit outcomes. I think we need clarity, we need a better response, because if the chairperson of the board says she learns about this for the first time here, then it's a serious indictment on every executive in this room.
I assume there hasn't been any meeting that you have sat and discussed this matter. Am I wrong?
Just stand by, company secretary.
Chair, during the induction, we were appraised of the matter. I think the specific question was asked around knowledge of the heads of argument that you've just raised, submitted on the 30th of October. I think that was the response towards that. Not that the new board wasn't appraised during induction on that. I think it's very important that the board was appraised on the current state of the matter.
So if you were told, then you would have understood the gravity and the seriousness of the matter. You would have made a follow-up if you were appraised of the matter, unless upon your appraisal you did not see it as an urgent matter. Are you aware that AG is currently busy preparing to file their heads of argument and it's due on the 30th and you have not engaged the AG? Are you also hearing this for the first time? I don't want you come January, you miss an opportunity to engage the AG. Currently, the AG has not filed their heads of argument. They are busy and it's due on the 30th of November. When are you going to engage the AG? Are you aware of such a process?
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, I'd like to again reiterate that we have been seeking a time and a date to meet with the AG, and now it has been confirmed on the 4th of December. I think it's sometime next week. So we have been trying to reach out to the AG. Again, bearing in mind that we've only been in office for 2 months and we were busy dealing with compliance matters. So we heard of the matter and we decided that we needed to engage with the other party first before we can go and engage everybody else. And again, I'd like to reiterate the fact that a matter like that needs due consideration by the new board before a different decision is taken. We're not disrespecting, the authority of everybody involved in this process. We just need to apply our due minds and cares so that when we take the decision, it's the right one. I think that is very important. But reaching out to the AG, we've been trying to get a date. We've only received a date, and I've given that date. It's not like we're not trying. So I think that's very important. And that meeting is going to happen. That's why I'm requesting, with respect, Chairperson, just reasonable time so we can see how the matter goes forward.
Madam Chair,
Thank you.
we have given reasonable time. The second point is, I'm not sure, what are you going to be saying to the AG when you already were in a midstream in the court process? I'm not, I think, Madam Chair, what we're trying to draw to your attention is not the merits and demerits of the case. Is the fact that there are processes moving outside you as the board. Yet you are making efforts on the other side to engage the AG. I would imagine you're looking for the AG herself. Is that correct, Mema Lulega, or it's the AG team? So that's what I'm understanding. So you've got the heads of the institutions, but things are moving. I would be, if I was in your shoes, I would be saying, can we not even proceed with this meeting, learning that there are court papers? That should be the shocker. That, for me, that's what is substantively. I can't imagine a situation if I arrived here and I learned that Sestombo Sesbuzelo had done something admin and I learned about it here. I would go airport. I think that's where we're trying to draw you to. We're pointing to a governance crisis. And that's why I'm saying, as far as I'm concerned, it's to me like we're back to ground zero, we're back to square one. And I'm worried, I'm fundamentally worried. Because it's either you're in court or you're not in court. I think that's the issue. So, AG, you are preparing to respond now? Guys, I just want to come back to the company secretary on this issue. It's substantive. That's why all these other things you're pointing to as a success, we won't praise a fish for swimming. It's your job, you are expected to do it. The fundamental issue is that there's a change of accounting standards which has had a material impact and effect on the books of REF, and that is why the AG has arrived at the audit outcome that they've presented. So how is it that RAF proceeds to court when the board is trying to, I mean, even a courtesy, I would imagine, let me dumb it down to that. Dumb it down. Madam Chair, as you proceed with your negotiations, we are proceeding with court. Here are our papers. At least, again, let me dumb it down to that level. Comsec?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, you asked as to what happened at the induction. At the induction, one of the things that happened was exactly to consider the issue, the dispute with the AG. And the background to this matter was shared with the new board members. They requested time, to go over the package, the pack that we shared with them. Over and above that, there was a request to meet with the AG to get the AG side. That's why I worked on the meeting that is going to be held on the 4th of December, so that the audit committee, the statutory committee, can meet with the AG. That is what transpired out of the engagement at the induction, Chair. I am aware that the board would want to resolve this matter, and the starting point, Chair, was to meet with the AG. Meeting with the AG, the person? No, Chair. The request was, I think the first price was to meet with the AG, but we understand that we're going to meet with the business unit leader as well as the deputy business leader to just find each other on this matter with the new board, Chair.
Doesn't strike you as strange that the chairperson would say that she's learning about the court papers for the first time on the 29th of November?
It is not a usual thing, Chair. From where I'm sitting, I don't think I would have had sight with the process that was followed too.
Chair, again, with due respect, I would really love the committee to just give me time. I need to engage with the executives urgently on this matter. And then, yeah, we'll take it forward from then. Thank you.
No, I'm looking at the letter that was sent to you by the AG about the meeting between the management and the board. And it says, conclusion of the matter discussed at the meeting. In concluding the matter, I reiterate that the board management are parties that would have made the decision to withdraw the judiciary review of the 2020-21 audit unconditionally. Until then, the AG will continue with the necessary preparation of the review of proceedings set down on the 3rd and the 4th of October. So at the time, so AG met with the board, Chair. And the understanding was that, yes, with the previous board. And the understanding that the matter was going to be withdrawn unconditional. There was no mention of Part A and Part B. That's where my bone of contention lies, Chair, previous. And the new board is prepared to meet with the AG, and they've been seeking to meet with an AG. So the assumption is that you exactly know what is it that you want to engage the AG, and you have applied your mind on the status of the current impasse. Are you meeting with the AG with a view of what you have alluded to us, to seek alternative ways to resolve the matter? Madam Chair, let me repeat. For you to seek an audience with an AG, at least you are privy of the issues, and there's something or an desired outcome that you want to achieve from your meeting. And in today's meeting, you have already stated to us that you want to meet with an AG on the basis of getting alternative dispute resolution mechanism to deal with this matter. So in your understanding, you want this matter to be settled outside court, meaning you have applied your mind already, and in your view, going to court, it's not an option. Is my understanding and assumption correct in this regard?
Madam Chairperson, you can respond to all the issues you'd wanted.
Thank you, Chair, once again. Honourable Member, I think it's very important to note what I've said earlier on, that I'm not a legal person, but in my experience, I'm aware that in any court matter, irrespective of how far it has progressed, that there is always an alternative to a settlement. I think that was the acknowledgement that I made, not necessarily that I knew everything about the matter. And that's why we need to engage to understand from the genesis of the matter. Yes, we were given the background at the induction, but that's when we realized that we need to also get, the other party. There's two sides to every story. The executives gave us, the background and told us where they were with the process. So we needed to get the view from the other party as well and understand the merits and the genesis of the matter up to a stage where it is. That's why we were trying to push so that by the time we close for the holidays, at least we have engaged with the other party. So my acknowledgement was that there is always a possibility of a settlement in any court matter, irrespective. That's why we want to engage and see whether there is a possible way to resolve this matter outside court, or alternatively, because yeah, we can agree on the settlement going forward. And I'm not aware of the instruction or the commitment that the board made to withdraw the matter unconditionally. I would be, yeah, no, I can't respond because, like you said correctly, that it could have been made by the previous board, but I'm not aware of the specifics to that. But right now, we're trying to engage with the other party with the intention, hopefully, for meaningful settlement. Because, I mean, we are two parties that are organs of the state, and we have to find ways of working together. So there could be a solution, and that's why we're reaching out to the Auditor General. And on the other matters, I will engage with the executives, and then we will give you whatever update on the two actions, Chairperson. Thank you.
So I'll be correct to say the meeting is just a fact-finding mission. Nothing concrete you're going to propose to AG because you are new. You still have to listen to the other side. And those that were there previously have not briefed you on the views and the current position of the Auditor General. I don't want to, and you'll correct me if my assumption is wrong, because from what I'm hearing, the board is still engaging on fact-finding mission for them to be able to apply their mind and ensure that proper care and due diligence is done on this matter, Chair.
I'll respond to you. I'll come to you. There's a reason why I want to add to that what you've just said. Ma'am Leso?
No, it's a small thing, Chair, which probably will end up not getting, the SCOPA has got its own way of dealing with the matters. It's not like a portfolio committee, that's one. It deals with the facts, accuracy, and everything. I'm not saying portfolio committees, they don't do that. But even the line of engagement is not the same as the portfolio committee, so you don't speak English, you speak directly to the issue that has been raised. Chairperson, the chair of the board has said that notwithstanding that the company secretary had a very unique choice of words that she used when she was responding, assisting the chair, that he has not yet been properly briefed. That means it was not part of the priority of the executive to inform the importance and gravity of this matter. And also the board chair seems like, I hope I'm wrong, doesn't appreciate that RAF is an entity of government. SCOPA is the body of parliament. AG is the government entity. And the rules of the game applies with the South African, informed by South African Constitution and the laws thereof. Not anyone, what you think that is better, it works for you. Notwithstanding the reason and the rationale thereof. However, the point that the letter in terms of what AG wrote to the old board, but subsequent to the new board, it's very fundamental. If I were you, Chair, the chair of the board, now coming back to you, you made indirectly a very sponsoring a tactical direction to assist the chair. I would have grabbed that opportunity to both hands to say, let me be given a chance, whether it's 1 hour or it's tomorrow, without also interfering with the program of the committee, which is the SCOPA, to ensure that we are updated on speed on issues, so that when you lead the delegation, because you've got a responsibility, you know what you are leading. Not to be humiliated and embarrassed where you don't know, and also your supporting team, they choose the ways that are not precise to the point that we want to know. And also when you respond, you have 2 or more than that. It cannot be. You should know your meetings, how many meetings you would have had. But nevertheless, Chairman, I would have taken that opportunity. I'm just sponsoring that in a way so that also we get this engagement very fruitful and we move. Thank you.
It's one thing. In the portfolio committee 3 weeks ago, the portfolio committee said the following. the matter should be resolved out of court. The ref must give us a progress report, and the entity needed to resolve the high percentage on legal costs. 3 weeks ago, that's what the committee said. The chairperson of the board responded as follows. We are unable, I'm quoting, we are unable to give an absolute answer on the resolution of this matter. We do not have the power to move the hand of the AG in this matter. The previous board tried but failed. The court was the last resort after so many attempts. We could not put a timeline to it as it requires agreements from other parties. My take, the board has a position. That's the position of the board. I can categorically say there is no will on the part of ref to leave court. And this is inclusive of the board. The exercise with the AG, I fundamentally believe, is not an exercise in good faith. And I'll have to be convinced otherwise on that one. Because ref fundamentally believes that they are right. Despite, what new is AG going to say? Are you going to suddenly say, no, the accounting standard is right? No. It's not going to happen, because even then the integrity of the AG is called into question. So we're going to spin around here and go on and on and on and on. The chair has requested an opportunity to engage with the executives. Fine. Proceed. But listening to this, I have got absolutely no hope or faith. And this has been the problem with RAF. It continues to define itself outside due process. It defines itself outside advice and guidance of the statutory bodies that matter in its ecosystem of functionality. And I repeat what I've said before. It's a typical case of Miss Trunchbull in Matilda, the movie, where she says, I'm right, you wrong, I'm big, you small, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's the attitude of RAF. Miss Trunchbull attitude. It's been a year. The minister that was absent was briefed. He came back. His Honorable Hadebe has reminded us with the letter that he wrote that get out of court. What a year later, what has RAF done? Dug in its heels. And now there's going to be some attempt to try and strong arm the AG, to get the AG to concede to this. The accounting standard you are using is wrong. So that there's no ambiguity on our part. It's wrong. And no amount of wheeling and dealing and squealing, respectfully, is going to change that. So, quite frankly, I'm not even sure why we should proceed. We'll give URF an opportunity, and then we'll either next week, Wednesday, or Tuesday or Wednesday, we can do a virtual meeting, and you can give us an update on where things are. And then we know where we stand. On that day, come back with a position. Either you're in court or you're not in court. Then we all know, so that we can consider our options as Parliament on this matter, whether should we not join it as an amicus. Because you want a negotiated audit outcome which sets a very wrong precedence for oversight and accountability, and sets the AG on a slippery slope of collision course with everybody who's an auditee, because they will want to be audited on their terms when all the bodies have told you that the accounting standard is wrong. So I think, System, if you can engage legal and consider our options of entering this matter as an amicus if it continues. This is totally unacceptable, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't think REF is engaging with us here in good faith. We'll hand over to the,
Yeah, Chair.
just 1 second, AG wants to say something. The Chair will have the opportunity to make concluding remarks on behalf of the board. And I'm not sure what the department DG on this matter, where you are. Because I would imagine that your shareholder representative, they themselves must have a position that they are advancing at the board level. Is it the position of the department that this is the right course of action? Why must we keep on throwing financial solutions to non-financial problems? When REF is spending in court day in and day out, complaining that you've not received fuel levy increases for the past 2 years. AG?
Okay. No, thank you so much, Chairperson. Yeah, just to respond and also even confirm some of the facts as related to the AGSA. Firstly, I would like to confirm that indeed AGSA will be filing its own head of arguments in reply to what RF has actually tabled. That's the first thing. Yes, the date is the 30th of November. Then the second part, in relation to the request made by the board, indeed the board made a request to meet the AG. However, the AG replied that due to her commitment, she won't be able to meet. However, she requested that if they want to continue to have a meeting, if it's related to the litigation, then that matter needs to be dealt with our legal representative. As it relates to the audit-related matters, it has to be dealt with the business unit leader and the deputy business unit leader. I just want to state those facts. Thank you.
DOT?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Morning, members. Clearly, I would imagine from Chair, from the point of view that it's a new board. I note the discussions on the committee on where the committee sits on where the matter is. Our view is that this new board, on what we've seen, and that includes our shareholder representatives, is that they are prioritizing the matter. I do think it might be an interesting comment to make, to ask the question, and really I simply proffer this, Chair, and I think it will be useful, to ask the question in a documented way, what actually is there that says post the letter of the former minister, what actually has happened? Because I think that might introduce a useful angle. Nonetheless, it doesn't assist us to say, why are we in court? All I am saying is that as far as DOT is concerned, we would err on the side that says it might be fair to give the committee, as the chairperson requests, of course to a deadline that the committee might determine is sufficient, because we think it's correct to defer to the board. I didn't mean the committee, I mean the board. So, Chair, it's a matter indeed that we are concerned about, but I think there's a detail that we don't think is in front of the committee with respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. From the shareholder perspective, I think I just need to put it on record that this matter has been discussed at length. Even at the induction, Chair, we did discuss. I think one of the issues that probably led to where we are is that at the time that where we are now, a decision has not come through the board that we are withdrawing, and I think we were providing the new board with the opportunity to just consider their stance on it. And from the shareholder perspective side, and even the board has discussed it, I don't think there is any other antagonistic posture that we are taking in the discussions. I think the discussion is that seek alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. The first meeting was with the AG in May. It didn't go well, and the new board came in and we said, let's continue meeting the AG as we consider
Might
what the
want to
minister has
unpack what
provided.
you mean didn't go well. For who?
There were certain issues that were discussed. One of the proposals was that is there an opportunity for the audit of 2021 to be reopened, taking into consideration the subsequent events. I think those are the technical issues that were discussed in that meeting, and post that, we then got a response that on matters that were put on the table, there were not there were not a favorable posture from the AG side, and now the board had to consider everything that is provided to us post that meeting. But I think, Chair, just at the top, like the DG said, the minister has not given a directive, but he has said the board must consider alternative dispute resolutions. And in all the meetings that we've been in, that's the posture that the board has taken. I think the chair will convene an urgent board meeting where we will discuss whether we need to fast track the new board's understanding of the criticality of this matter, and then take it further. I agree, Chair, that maybe next week we might be able to come back to you with a posture, a resolution that has been made that then direct issues going forward. Thank you very much.
Chair, you'll guide me on the way forward. Yeah, I think you must. Yeah, you must just remind. I think we made a proposal on the legal costs.
Yes, we did. There is a proposal.
Yeah, if they continue with this matter, I think we must apply what we applied to the public protector.
Yeah.
But they must incur the cost. Maybe they will. Missing on. Because if they continue utilizing the state coffers, they are not really feeling the pinch, Chair. I'm worried, Chair, even the invoice of the SIU, the board chair only learn about it next to advocate Mutibi. There are a lot of things that are happening. No, but
I saw them differing to one another.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, because I wanted to add, Kanti, your progress report with Nigaban. Who do you give your progress report? Because the advocate was very clear that we before the invoice, we give our progress reports. Now the chair comes and say, so you and the chair was very happy to work with the SIU. The SIU will help us, but when progress report are given, they're only seen for the first time here. Advocate, where do you submit these reports? You know, and there's another issue that I wanted to raise, because it seems as if, Chair, it's the transport thing to terminate contracts, and then we find ourselves in a very awkward situation. They've terminated the panel of attorneys contract, and the default judgment has escalated to 4.7 billion. The security contract of PRASA was terminated. We don't have trains now running. I'm just saying, Chair, I wanted to get a clarity on this matter of this 4.7 billion. What were the cost of court claims that were paid then, and subsequently the termination of the panel of attorneys, so that we can compare the actual value since then to now, when there were attorneys representing Ralph on court disputes. How much cases were they losing and how much money was paid, vis-a-vis now with this default judgment. I'm interested. And have you received any explanation what led to the cancellation? Is anyone present today in a position to clarify us on this matter? Because it's a similar matter with PRASA, Chair. But with PRASA, one would understood at the time it was an unlawful contract. I'm not sure whether or not that this panel of attorneys services were terminated based on whatever reasoning, but it's important that we are briefed, Chair. And Advocate Mutibi, please make sure that the board gets the progress reports so that your money gets paid to you.
Just one thing. Madam Chair, were you not on the previous board?
I was chair.
Okay, can proceed with responses.
If I may, Honorable Chair, thank you, Honorable Khadebe. The submission of the progress reports is regulated through what we call the letter of engagement that we enter with the state institutions. And in the letter of engagement, there is a liaison person, contact person that we submit the progress reports to. It was initially the head of forensics, I'm informed, who has now been changed to the governance officer. So the expectation, of course, is once the progress reports are submitted, they should be processed internally. In terms of the escalating default judgments, as we indicated in the presentation, the rationale for the cancellation or termination of the panel is really being looked into. If there's anyone who can really throw some light today, which we can take into account as we investigate, we'll appreciate that. But otherwise, it's still under investigation. Thank you.
Madam Chair, you were part of the new board, of the old board, but you need to be brought up to speed on these matters again. The first thing I did when I arrived in this position of Scopa Chair, having served it for 5 years, was to read the legacy report again, having been a member here for 5 years in this committee. I don't understand. We spoke about continuity in glowing terms at the start of this meeting. Let's get let's get responses. Just stand by, Honorable Bucas. Let's get responses to all those issues.
Thank you, Chair. I think, Chair, it's very important to understand being a chair doesn't make you a board. So there are procedures in terms of board meetings and resolutions that need to follow before any decision is taken by the board, whether you're a new member or not. But Chair, I think the recent questions were posed to the SIU. I'm not sure if I've missed anything in terms of the latest, but I think I've attempted to answer all the questions, and I would really like to get direction in terms of the way forward. Thank you, Chair.
We're wrapping up. It's just to make sure that we do so. And also, we still have time. There's still an hour. Honorable Bucas.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, so we're proceeding with the meeting.
My request, colleagues, is that we suspend this meeting because my assessment, it may be wrong, but I doubt I am. Please don't take that with any hint of arrogance. I don't think RAF is being honest with us. I don't think RAF is being fair to us. I think RAF maintains its outlook, old board, new board, and that's why I was going back to the portfolio committee transcript. And I think, colleagues, ultimately, this matter is going to be in court. I think the one matter where we must clarify is that we don't have an issue with court process. They are allowed within the constitutional construct of the country. But there has to be a rational and reasonable rational and reasonable cause, rather, to go to court. And here we are saddled with an entity whom relevant bodies have indicated to them that your accounting standard is wrong. And we affirm that position. We had them here, Chairperson. We called them all in this very room a year ago. So that it's not a new matter. They were here. ASB logged in online. They said, we've got a small budget, we won't travel. Your colleagues will remember. Yeah, in this room. We had the DM at the time, who's now the minister. In this room. We went to REF. We went there, boots on the ground. We've engaged AG extensively. There was a directive, pull out of court. Despite all of that, put aside the public denigration of the committee on media out platforms and all sorts of things said about us. We are quite thick-skinned enough not to be bothered. But that's the extent to which it went. RAF is committed to this course of action. That's my assessment. Hell or high waters. They want this accounting standards on their books no matter what. And they will string us along with the hope that this parliament will dissolve. That's the modus operandi here. String us along long enough until we get to elections. That's that. Because there was the unfortunate incident when we were at RAF, when comments were made in our absence, but sadly they reached us when we were there, that RAF enjoys political proximity or certain individuals. When we were there, so that maybe today I can be blunt, so that you know, we are not ignorant to the fact that RAF is allergic to oversight and accountability. There's no honesty at RAF. So you will go there and talk to the AG and waste the AG's time. You came to the portfolio committee and you said all the things that you said. The chairperson and the committee implored on you to resolve this matter even outside court. You were non-committal. And I certainly would be surprised if the board does not take action on the issue of the filing of court papers. Because if you don't, it will confirm to me that the board is party to that process. You will vindicate the position we hold, that you are complicit in this cause, in this direction. You have chosen a path, and if there's no consequence management around this, we will be vindicated. I do not believe that a matter of such great import to the life and death of RAF, insofar as audit outcomes are concerned, would be dealt with in a laissez-faire attitude as you are doing, or pretending to be, or presenting to be. I don't believe so. There's a game plan here, and we see it for what it is. So we will reconvene, colleagues, to get an update for what it's worth. Either next Wednesday or Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll look at Parliament's program. We will meet on the virtual platform to get an update and the outcomes of the meeting you would have had with AG, whom I would imagine you will proceed with your papers tomorrow. I would strongly suggest that you do, because if you don't, this game plan will run its full course. For me, rough, it's rough. So we will conclude it at that. Honorable Hattab.
I think, Chair, maybe I had arrived late. Next time, we shouldn't proceed with our meetings if the executive authority is not present.
No, it was explained that the minister is in cabinet.
Yes,
and
I'm just saying, next time, they must make sure that they are part of the meeting, because, sorry, I forgot the name. The gentleman just, someone said it was not a directive that they must withdraw from court, it was an advice. Yet, Chair, in our meeting, let me read what the Deputy Minister said. The Deputy Minister shared with the committee that a letter was written by the department with a directive for RAF to withdraw the case against AG due to the legal obligation of the RAF to report to Parliament. The Deputy Minister further indicated that the letter did not contain condition and was specific that the RAF should withdraw the litigation unconditionally.
No, you're right.
Unconditionally. It's a
way-
directive. You see, if the executive authority was here, we would have asked these questions, because now the narrative is being painted that no, it was an advice, yet it was a directive. April 2023, a letter was written instructing you what to do. And it further says, the DM stated that if RAF fails to act on the letter, the minister would exercise her rights as a shareholder, hence the time granted to RAF to submit everything due to Parliament. I would have asked, has the shareholder acted in this regard? Because RAF clearly failed, deliberately so. You have filed your heads of argument when you were instructed to withdraw the case.
Yeah, you are right, we should not have proceeded, but in a way I think it's good we did. And I think if you listen to the DG draws your attention. He says, we must look at what has happened since. So the door that sort of remains open, you see. Unless I'm hearing him wrong, but he says, look at what has happened since. So, look, we are here in this position. I don't think that we're going to get anywhere. Let me take this opportunity. We will communicate. Stombi, can we preferably please meet on Tuesday so that there's no stories about cabinet? You see, as well, because we know what Wednesday does. So can we try and get this? I know that your meeting is on the 4th. It's Monday, so it may also be too quick a turnaround time to meet. We can meet at 10. On Wednesday, 10 or 11. 11 o'clock, colleagues, works for you on Wednesday on the virtual platform to give them time after Monday to have consolidated. It's not going to be a long response. Really, we agreed or didn't agree. And we're going to, and then we know, so that we can consider our options. So Stombi, please engage legal on our options, because I see a big risk for oversight here, a massive one. And then we'll consider our options. Portfolio on Tuesday.
Chair, I like that you directed that question. I was going to say that instead of us crashing your meeting today, can we have a joint meeting so that we can continue with the space, so that we don't lose anything? We don't have any meeting next week. Thank you very much.
No, you are welcome to join. The committee secretaries will share with your committee the details, and then it's Tuesday 11. it's a brief meeting, Venice, to get an update.
Also, Chair, to understand whether all the outstanding audits were submitted to Parliament as instructed.
No, I don't think so. 21, 22 has not. Right, am I right? 21, 22 has not been submitted. 21, 22 has not been submitted.
Abafuna.
Angiyona phela ish disclaimer we Bungan. It's to arrive at a negotiated audit outcome. To
No,
push
okay.
back on the disclaimer.
We must also get the reason why, after the instruction, such reports are still outstanding.
All right, no, it's fine. If there's any set of questions ahead of the meeting, we'll provide that so that you can come prepared and not ambush you. Let me take this opportunity to thank the DG and his team from the department, the chairperson of the board, and her colleagues on the board, Madam Deputy Chair, and the other board members and the executives of RAF, Babu Mtibi and your team, as always, National Treasury, thank you very much. AG, thank you very much. Colleagues, thanks to you as well for a very long year. This is our last physical meeting for 2023. I want to thank you for all your hard work. I know at times we've met at night, and we've spent many hours doing boots on the ground oversight. Thank you for your cooperation. I fundamentally believe that teamwork works, and we have pushed as far as we could. We will meet on Tuesday on the rough matter, and then on Wednesday, we will meet again on the virtual platform to finalize unauthorized expenditure so that at least the report is ready for submission to the House in January. It's the one report that's outstanding. The others we will deal with. And I'll be failing if I do not thank the members of the media for all their hard work as well, covering us for the public interest. It's really less about us. It's about the work that we're doing in the public interest, and for being here on a good day and on a bad day, and to say that the media is a strength to our democracy. So to the media colleagues who are here, thank you very much. Nibe nokhisimuso omuhle, uNkulunkulu umusanthanda nigcina nihlenga nilondoloze. Until we meet again, peace out.
Yeah, asibafuni.
Are still considering one? Are still considering to leave us? This year?
No, yeah, okay.
Okay. Oh, it's gonna be a mess.